Ever wonder what happens when a broken hero is forced to rise again in the unforgiving streets of New York? Welcome to Daredevil, Born Again. Matt Murdock, one a vigilante and now a man on the edge, must confront betrayal, loss, and the cost of redemption. Buckle up, because this is a wild ride of grit, heartache, and raw determination. Hey everyone, welcome to Vice Recaps. Today, we're diving headfirst into Daredevil, Born Again, a gritty tale of redemption, betrayal, and the cost of heroism in the mean streets of Hell's Kitchen. Former vigilante Matt Murdock is pushed to his limits. As old alliances crumble and new threats emerge, he must face the ghost of his past and decide if he can ever truly leave the mantle of Daredevil behind.
I wonder if your darker half would agree. That part of my life is over.
Let's get into it. The movie opens up in the bustling city of New York, where the sounds of vehicles and passersby fill the air. Coming out of the building, we see the three friends, Matt Murdock, Foggy Nelson, and Karen Page. They engage with one another, reminding themselves of the nostalgia of Hell's Kitchen, which is a place Matt Murdock grew up in and vows to protect as Daredevil. Although Cherry is retiring, they go to Josie's bar to celebrate him. And while everyone's talking with one another, Josie's gives Cherry a gift and says he doesn't have to pay for anything. Everyone cheers to this, and we see Matt and Karen having a light conversation about Foggy, until things take a turn for the worse when Foggy has to step out to answer a call from Benny. Matt hears this, using his ultra hearing abilities, and is able to figure out what they're saying. Benny is a man who ripped off a bonded warehouse, and he gets caught by the cops. He tried playing it off by saying he found 20 cases of Lafite Rothschild, which is a very expensive wine, on the subway. Benny sounds distressed and in fear over the call, and Foggy tries to reassure him. He keeps saying they are here and are after him, even though Foggy securely kept Benny in his apartment. Matt and Karen step out, and Matt, who didn't know about Benny's location, decides to go and help him out after he hears crashing noises. Daredevil shows up and wastes no time swinging to the scene. But just as Daredevil is closing in, his super hearing picks up Benny's voice. He hears Benny apologizing, saying a man wanted to know where Foggy was. Clearly this is a trap, and before Daredevil can react, Foggy gets shot by no one other than Bullseye. He kills two other men, and Karen freaks out. Bullseye walks out of the fog menacingly and throws a smoke bomb into the bar with a murderous intent aimed at Karen. Daredevil delivers a swinging kick to stop him. Their battle begins with Bullseye using his knives to his advantage, stabbing Daredevil at every chance he gets. Daredevil is relentless, and he keeps fighting back, smashing through a door. Meanwhile, outside, we see Karen trying to help Foggy out. She tries encouraging him to hold on, and that help is on the way. Foggy stays strong despite losing so much blood. Bullseye tries to escape, hurting innocent people in order to slow Daredevil down. It works for a while, but they continue to fight on the stairs. But Bullseye manages to get to the roof. It isn't quite over yet, as Daredevil jumps down and knocks him. Filled with rage and anger, he fights Bullseye and stops him from killing himself. He relentlessly hits Bullseye, but unfortunately Foggy can't fight anymore. His heartbeat slowly drops, and he dies a grim death. Daredevil, who's both angry and pained, shouts with his strength, asking Bullseye why. He loses it and lets Bullseye fall to the ground, in hopes of killing him. He takes off his mask, and just then Cherry sees his secret identity. But down below, Bullseye isn't dead, and he starts to cough. Daredevil cries out, expressing his loss, and he lets his mask fall to the ground. In the next scene, a year has passed after the incident, and Matt Murdock gets himself ready. He takes a suit and leaves for a court hearing. But just then we get a glimpse of a powerful person, an old man who's eating breakfast and then grabs a suit, while a meeting is ongoing with Vanessa Fisk and other men in the room. Vanessa stops him from fighting and tells him about last month's return of $7.73 million. She says it would all be distributed to them, when suddenly, their meeting is interrupted by no other than Wilson Fisk, aka Kingpin, a man so formidable his presence signals other men to leave the room. Whilst alone with his wife, they reminisce of his absence, and Wilson lets her know he'll be around for as long as she has him. He tells her his true intentions, and wants her to partner up with him for the city. Wilson has gotten 25,000 signatures, and plans to run for mayor. He tells her it's time, and the scene changes. Over back at New York City, the reporters interview some citizens, asking them their opinion on the crime in the city. They answer differently, but all agree that they need Daredevil back. Matt Murdock returns to the firm, and he meets with Kirsten. She asks about Murdock's well-being, clearly showing she cares about him, but he insists he is fine. She asks about Karen, but he stops her in her track, saying he knows what Kirsten is doing. He leaves for the hearing, and it's a trial meant to convict Benjamin Poindexter, aka Bullseye. Matt Murdock tells the courtroom he knows Foggy would never get justice, since he would still remain dead, but he expresses himself, saying he hopes the court would punish the self-styled assassin to the full extent of the law. Bullseye shows no remorse, and the judge gives him a sentence, a life imprisonment with no possible chance of parole. Once the trial is over, Matt and Karen have a talk with each other. Karen talks about how San Francisco has been, as well as old times, but Matt addresses the issue up front. He tells her he has tried calling several times, as well as leaving messages, but he hasn't been able to have a conversation with her. Karen retaliates, saying Matt was the one who ghosted her for weeks, even though it was both their friends who died. She apologizes for not calling, and that it had to end. Matt chuckles in disbelief. Pain he has to lose another friend. He tells her he refuses to believe a tragedy ended everything, but she says it did. Trying to change the conversation, she asks what Matt would do about Daredevil, but Matt tells her he had already promised himself to let the system handle it. He admits he isn't Daredevil anymore. Struck by his words, Karen gets up to leave, but she drops a horn from his mask with him. He holds a piece, and the scene changes to him making dinner. Distracted with his cooking, his ears pick up the mention of Wilson Fisk, a rival he has faced before. Matt is pissed to find out a corrupt Kingpin is running for mayor. Meanwhile, the next day, Fisk advisor is telling him they need to refine his points, until a young man lets them know Fisk is trending all around social media. And despite entering the campaign late, it seems he has the support of the people. Fisk doesn't seem too impressed by the man, and he takes his leave. Matt, at his office, is met by Kirsten, who reminds him of a client he has to meet in a downtown coffee shop. Matt, who's walking through the streets, can't help but pick up chatters of people discussing Fisk. While some are against him, others are happily cheering and rooting for him. He gets to the coffee shop and waits for Dr. Glenn. When she arrives, she introduces herself and even tells Matt how she knows Kirsten. But things take a sneaky turn when Matt realizes Dr. Glenn is a client. But Kirsten has set him up on a date without both the doctor and his knowledge. He doesn't want to come off rude, so he stops her from leaving. He gets to know her, and two get along with each other. The next day, Matt shows up and expresses his frustration with Kirsten. He plays it off and tells Kirsten she shouldn't try something like that again, while telling her to give him Dr. Glenn's number. He goes to meet with Cherry. And whilst Cherry tells him Kingpin didn't enter the election with any illegal money, Matt still doesn't trust him. He knows Kingpin better and knows what plans he has for the city. Since there's nothing they can really do, Matt is hesitant but tells Cherry to drop the case. Matt watches Fisk debate from his building, and the next day after Fisk's meeting, he wastes no time meeting him, eyes glaring and ready to confront him. Matt asks to speak with Wilson in private. The two leave for a coffee shop and supposedly have a normal talk with one another. Wilson addresses if Matt has been keeping tabs on him. Wilson lets Murdock know that he had nothing to do with Foggy's death. Matt says he can't shake the feeling that Kingpin is gaming the system. And while Kingpin replies things aren't good out there, Matt says New York is what it's always been. Wilson fires back asking why Matt dropped the mantle of the Daredevil. And Matt deeply replies that a line was crossed. He says despite the good he was doing, he was still causing damage. Matt gives a cold warning to Kingpin, telling him if he steps out of line, he will be waiting for him. Kingpin also warns Daredevil, saying when he becomes mayor, he doesn't want any costume vigilante running around. Matt tells him to stay in his lane, and he would do the same. He takes his cane and leaves the shop. Late that night, Matt and Heather are walking down the streets. When Matt's super hearing picks up, Wilson Fisk won the election. Everyone is celebrating, but Murdock doesn't seem too happy. He takes her home, and they share a kiss before Matt goes his own way. Wilson and his wife exchange glances, happy their plan has finally worked. But on the rooftop, Wilson confronts his wife about her lover, a man named Adam. She asks him not to kill Adam, and Wilson reassures her he is a new person. In a suspenseful climax, Matt walks down the streets and Wilson stares down from a rooftop. Matt hears a woman shouting for help, but ignores it. He keeps walking and starts looking upwards, creating a parallel contrast between their two worlds. A world where a former hero and a former villain can't stick to their new ways. If you guys enjoyed this recap, make sure to smash the subscribe button. I'll see you in the next video.